Hi, I'm Marcus Fairs, founder and editor-in-chief of Dezeen, and I'm here with Konstantin Grcic to talk about his new bell chair for Magis. Hi, Konstantin.
Hi Marcus.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us what you do.
I'm a designer, and I would normally call myself an industrial designer. I always made that point that I wanted to work for industry more than any other type of client. I have set up my own office in 1991, so really a long time ago, almost 30 years ago. And I work a lot in the furniture industry.
Tell us a little bit about Magis as well. What is Magis and where does it come from?
Well, Magis is a typical Italian furniture producer. Typical in that it's a family-run business. When I was a student in London at the Royal College of Art, I went to, I think it was the furniture fair in Olympia, and I picked up a brochure from a company called Magis without any kind of ideas about this company to become a future client. But I picked it up because of some products that they showed which intrigued me, and those were very early projects. I'm talking about probably 1989, 1990. And Magis at the time worked with, for example, a French designer called Marc Berthier, who designed beautiful, simple furniture made in wood and steel. So it was a company that had an industrial take on the production of furniture and definitely a clear design idea. Then I kind of rediscovered Magis through Jasper Morrison, who did the plastic bottle rack as his first product, and then later on the air chair. That was, I think, probably in 1999, and this is the time when I met Perazza, the founder and head of Magis, in Milan, probably at the furniture fair, and we started a conversation about maybe future possible collaboration. Jasper's air chair was such a perfect product that at that time I couldn't have designed another plastic chair. It just seemed wrong. And it took probably a year from there of discussions until a phone call. Perazza called me and said, why don't we do a chair not in plastic, but in die-cast aluminium? And that became the Chair One, a product I did for Magis, really my first product, which then also became kind of iconic in a way, or I think it really changed something about Magis, because Magis then changed from being a plastic furniture company into a company that produced other things. Not that they hadn't done this before, but in the kind of common perception, it changed.
So let's move on to talking about the bell chair, which is your new product for Magis. So when Magis first approached you and said, Konstantin, we'd like you to do a very, very cheap monobloc plastic chair, what was your reaction?
My first reaction was, oh, is that really what we want to do, what we should do now? Because 2 years ago, as today, we are thinking about, sustainability, climate change, the problem of fossil materials like plastics and so on. And, it's the tendency is to avoid this kind of project rather than do it. But I think one lesson I've learned over so many years is that Perazza, he's always got some kind of, he's got an instinct for projects that are interesting. And also I thought, if the goal is really to design a monobloc plastic chair, but the most economical one, the one where we use the least material, the least energy. As a designer, I had to kind of address this best-selling typology of a chair, the monobloc chair, kind of taking it to another level, creating some kind of advance in this project. And the monobloc chair, the typical one, I think since the 70s, went in two directions. One was making it cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and all the iterations that we know, more decorative and so on. The other direction was becoming the kind of design products, design icons, like the Philippe Starck chairs, like then Jasper Morrison's air chair with extra technology. And I think our chair tried to tap into the middle of it, into that kind of, that middle that was, nobody took care of, the chair that wasn't becoming cheaper and cheaper, but a chair also that wasn't about making a design statement. It was the chair that is more objective, where we are working closely with the engineers to make it a kind of very a rational, intelligent project.
And what was the brief for the bell chair? Was there a price point you had to achieve? Was there a weight or a volume or a stackability? What were the parameters you were given that you had to achieve?
The parameters were quite simple. The parameters were a monobloc plastic chair in injection molding in polypropylene. The price point we considered at the start of the project were around 60 euros. Kind of in order to achieve that, we knew that we could only use a certain amount of material. That also creates the chair of a certain weight. And that means a certain cycle time on the machine, because what costs money is not so much the material, but the kind of the production time on the machine. We had to be able to produce the chair in less than a minute on the machine. And that has a lot of implications to the design. The key to doing such a project was involving a partner into the project right from the start, an engineering partner. And this particular partner, an Italian company, was not only the partner in engineering, but they also made the tool. They could do the pre-mold testing. They will do the production. They will take care of one part of the logistics once the chair is in production. And so with this partner, we worked, very closely around, let's say, very strict parameters that meant, we had to follow these parameters in order to achieve the price point, the cycle time, no more than this certain amount of material and so on. And it was in terms of a design process, it's something that I've never experienced quite to that extent. I think we always work with industry, and therefore within certain parameters, and how things are made and the efficiency is always an issue, but never quite to that extent. And I felt I became to feel more and more comfortable about this project, because I felt, my role was not to design my chair, but to design a chair that worked within these parameters and guiding that whole project. Of course, we wanted, a chair that is economical and that needs to sell in volumes, also has to be comfortable and beautiful. So I had an eye on the design, on the comfort, on its beauty, but on its logic. But that wasn't the starting point. It wasn't about the next incredible plastic chair. It was about doing a very rational chair.
So tell us about the design then. What is different? What is special? What is pioneering about the design you've come up with?
Well, in a way, nothing. But that's the point. We are not reinventing the chair. We are following certain kind of principles that are their knowledge. So if you think of the monobloc chair, we have a seat and back shell, and 4 legs, and the chair had to be stackable. In order to create the chair from the kind of the thinnest material, or the least amount of material, you have to design everything, in such a way that structurally it's strong, but with as little material as possible. The best way to do that for the shell is to look at an egg-shaped shell. That's more or less what the seat shell is. And the legs had to be just like the early 1920s sheet metal chairs. The legs had to be C-shaped in order to be strong. So more or less, that's what the chair is. It's an eggshell with 4 C-shaped legs on it, and then you put everything together in such a way that it can stack. It can stack vertically. That was another kind of requirement, because a lot of chairs are stacking, obviously, and they're stacking in a kind of slight diagonal, one in front of the other. We had to create a vertical stacker in order to keep to a footprint of just one chair for packaging. And in fact, we've designed the chair's own pallet, a bell chair pallet, which is a device that we use when the chairs come off the machine. They stack them into this pallet, and that pallet then goes straight into the warehouse and all the, on the truck and so on. The principal geometry of the chair was rather simple, as I described it to you. But then I think it took us a full year of quite intense work of making readjustments to that. And the readjustments became necessary because the more we having the chair and being able to make mold flow analysis on the computer, structural analysis, we learned more and more about the chair, and that informed the changes we had to make. So it was really a process of a simple ideas and sticking to that very simple principle, but then step by step and very carefully, very thoroughly optimizing it.
So presumably you hit all these requirements in the brief. So tell us about the final product. How much does it cost? How much does it weigh? How long does it take to manufacture each one?
The chair costs 70 euros. It weighs 2.7 kilos. That's considerably less than a normal chair. A normal chair is 4 kilos and more. So we are, let's say just over half of the weight of a normal chair. And when you pick up that chair, it's quite incredible. It feels very light, but not too light. It's quite sophisticated. So not lightweight, cheap, or too light that it could become dangerous. It falls over or gets blown away. It just seems to be right. 2.7 kilos. It is produced in a cycle time of less than a minute. It is sold in stacks of 12 that we can put on the pallet. We can even you can stack 24 in a tower, but the transportation stack is 12 chairs. It's produced in just 3 colors, and we want to keep it that way. That's also part of the whole calculation. Each color is produced in a minimum lot of 2,000. That's how you keep the machine running and create an efficiency and so on. And a very important point, which we haven't really spoken about, the material we're using is not just plastic, polypropylene. It's a recycled polypropylene. And this recycled material is not a post-consumer material, so it's not a shredded from products, but it's material that is industrial waste that is produced exactly in these injection molding companies, where that you always have a waste material which normally gets shredded. The producer of this material turns it into a new recycled material. It's a polypropylene material. We do need fiberglass reinforcement. It's impossible, quite impossible not to have that, but we're keeping that at a minimum. And we have a chair that is made of waste, but it's also fully recyclable. So obviously this material can also be recycled at the end of its life, but its life is designed to be long. So we are not designing a chair that is disposable within years. It has the same lifespan as a virgin plastic, more or less.
And is the chair designed for a particular use? Is it an outdoor chair? Is it an indoor chair? Or is it a chair that people can use however they want? Because monobloc chairs are famous for cropping up everywhere, aren't they? In boats and in gardens, on beaches. They're kind of very versatile.
Yeah, these kind of chairs are very versatile, and these chairs are about high volume production. And if you want to have the chair, sold in lots, it has to be versatile, and then means certainly, a plastic chair can be used outdoors, and the examples you mentioned are outdoors. Clearly, a plastic chair can be used that way. The tricky part is making it work indoors as well, giving it a kind of the language and an expression that doesn't say I'm a garden chair or I'm a cafe chair, a street cafe chair. So that was one of the challenges, I think, for me in the design process. Tweaking the design in such a way that I think now it's a chair that if you see it, it doesn't even say I'm a plastic chair. It's a chair of a certain geometry and shape, and it's very comfortable. And I think it can fit very well in indoor, in situations indoors, even office, your kitchen table, waiting areas, but also outdoors, obviously.
One of your most recent projects with Magis was a cast iron chair. You were talking about the weight of the bell chair. So you've really gone from the extreme of weight to the extreme of lightness.
Yes, and Magis is always that kind of company for me that allows me to do exciting projects and not in down one line or track, but going from one thing to the other and so on. It's been really an incredible relationship, throughout my career, I can say, because I've worked for them for 20 years now, and working on the most different projects in furniture. And it's very, very rewarding for me.
Well, it's been great talking to you again, Konstantin, and best of luck with the launch of the bell chair.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much. Thanks for the conversation.